That was quite an earth, the background, water,
the beach, sand.
Or was it a beach?
I thought so.
That's water side.
What is exactly? Sand and water. That's the earth. And today happens to be Earth Day, April the 22nd. It's not for nothing that it is called Mother Earth, not Father. Go ahead, say it.
Please introduce our guests, please.
Mother Earth. And we are supposed to be celebrating Mother Earth today. And I'm happy to say that more and more we are learning how to look after Mother Earth, because it's been made very clear to us that if we don't look after it, in the end, it will kill us. So it's left us no choice, really. And I'm glad to, although the awareness in other climes, is a lot more than it is here, I'm glad to say that even here, the awareness is growing. Yep. And more people actually understand what all that talk about global warming, and environmental degradation, what all that means. Many more people, many more Nigerians are understanding that. So, what's a good way to celebrate Earth Day? I would like to ask the founder of Lufasi Park, Desmond Majekodume, an environmental bishop, or has he become the Pope now? Desmond, are you now the environmental Pope?
Praise the Lord.
How are you, Desmond? Good to have you with us. And we also have the National Coordinator, Global Environment Facility Small Grants Program, implemented by the United Nations Development Program, Ibironke Olubamishi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. You look bright and cheery, celebrating the earth.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Now, Desmond,
thank you, sir.
Many times you have come on this program and we have discussed the issue of awareness and how Nigerians are reacting to all these things they are hearing about the earth, and how if we don't look after the earth, well, we know what's going to happen. In your estimation, how is all that moving along?
Finally beginning to pick up. It's very ironic because 34 years ago today, my late wife and I celebrated our wedding anniversary purposely on Earth Day. And 2 years later, we released a record called Green Leaves, Mother Nature, talking, singing, rapping in my case, because I couldn't sing, so she wouldn't allow me to sing, about nature. Yeah, and apart from a few enlightened people in the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, like the late Chief S.L. Edu and the late Ambassador Alakeja and Philip Asiodu, and a few other people like that, others were thinking, these people are weird. What are they, singing about nature? However, 34 years later down the line, it is now beginning to come on mainstream. Many thanks to great media organizations like yours, and some of the international channels are now promoting it and putting it out there. Partly because I think the wording, the nomenclature, when we call it environment, we know, okay, that's what it is. But the reality of what it is our life support system. Like you rightly alluded to a bit earlier, is Mother Nature. Is the mother not the life support for her baby? And we're all the little babies of this big Mother Nature on Earth. So the awareness is coming up, but it's not coming up quick enough, because we're now reaching some critical points of no return. A rubber band, when you pull it, it comes back, but it reaches a point of elasticity where it snaps. And we're close to that right now. very, very close to that, whereby the earth will not be able to replenish itself enough to support mammalian life like us if we continue this onslaught. Because that's what we're doing. We're just wrecking her systems. Massive millions and millions of tons of pollution into the atmosphere, millions and millions of tons of pollution into the seas, into the waterways, into the earth systems, destroying of the forests in a massive way. She can't take it anymore. We're damaging her far too much. So the admonition is, hey, don't bite your mama.
Don't bite your mama. I like that. Mrs. Oluwabishi, the first Earth Day was celebrated in 1970. And as of 20 years thereafter, about 140 countries were celebrating Earth Day. Do you have any idea how many countries are celebrating Earth Day now?
Thank you very much, Mr. Lero, again. Thank you for having me. Well, I think that by the day, we have many more countries coming to it. I think the reason why we may not have the exact number of countries that are celebrating this is maybe because it's actually originated from America, the United States of America. And so at some point, some people feel that it's the World Environment Day that is global and it is not the Earth Day. But I say that whether it's originated from US, whether it's originated from Nigeria, the fact is that we have to take care of the planet Earth. We can't go on business as usual.
Yes.
And so the encouragement, and thanks again, just like Mr. Majekodumi said, thanks again to media houses like Chanda, the Channels TV, who are making efforts to create more awareness and get people to learn more about what we are talking about. And each day, every day, you meet one person, you talk to one person. If you are able to change the paradigm, the thinking pattern of an average person, then of course I believe everybody can get into this stream of taking care of the planet. And when you ask Mother Earth, why is it called Mother Earth? Mr. Majekodumi has actually mentioned, said something, but like, we know that mothers are the nurturers. So the earth is meant to nurture us. But like he said, if you bite the mother too much, then of course you are also hurting yourself because you won't be able to get the food as you ought to.
Yeah.
You know, madam, we mentioned, this conversation around Earth Day earlier in the day. Gratifying, as you both say, that we have more and more people talking about, these issues and all. But you would agree with me that we still have quite some work to do to get at least 100 million people to be talking about this issue, because once we get to that threshold, I think it'll be so much better, so much easier to market environment issues, climate change, global warming, and all of those things. Do you think the understanding, not just the awareness, but the understanding of what environment issues are prominent to people, madam? How do we make it an issue we talk about all the time so that anyone and everyone, young and old, rural or urban dwellers, will be able to hold on to these issues and make earth issues their own issues as well?
Thank you, Mr. Ayo. Yes, sure. What I tried to do, and what I think everybody should, who has awareness, like you said, we go beyond creating awareness, but how do we make people to really get involved? And I think the only way is if we can relate it to our daily lives. If we can relate it to how we eat, how we go about using whatever we are using, even to the clothes we are wearing, to using the drinking water, to the usage of water, and all the things that we take from the environment that we are consuming. How, if we think about it, I was talking with a couple of people recently, and I said, like, look, if you continue, for example, I was telling somebody that when you want to brush your teeth, for example, the tendency that what many people do is that they just leave the tap running and they are brushing until they are ready to use the water to wash their mouth or their feet. In which case, you can actually take the quantity of water you need in a cup, and then you turn off that tap, and then you brush. I bet you would save at least 2/3 of the water you would have used to brush your teeth at that moment. By that, we are saving the environment. We are applying it to our lives. You want to throw away food. Have you asked yourself, I was telling also somebody that if you say something is a waste, have you asked yourself, is this the final thing that this thing can be that can be used for? It may not be useful to you, but it may be useful to another person. But what we tend to do is that, like I used to say, many people used to think that natural resources are infinite. They cannot finish. But of course, we have been proven wrong now. Well, another thing we can, even to somebody who is not educated, if you ask him, when I go to the communities, you ask somebody that, when last did you see, maybe a place where they used to see a leopard before? When last did you see a small, a bush animal? They say, oh no, 20 years ago. Then you tell them, this is what is happening. We have driven them away by our lifestyles. We build houses, we don't consider if those animals or plants have a use. And I bet you, the creator who created them have a purpose for everything that is created. We may not have discovered the use, but everything, there is nothing that is created that is useless. If we have that at the back of our mind, each time we are using something, even on the farm, you are weeding your farm and you are throwing away something. You ask yourself, this thing can be put to something else. If the fact that I don't know it does not mean another person does not know it. So either you are educated, whether you did not go to school, everybody knows. Another thing I used to tell people in the village, in the communities, is that whereas most of the time we have meetings under the tree, and I ask them, how many trees were standing here 10 years ago? And they tell me, oh no, it's gone, we have only this one or this one left. And then when it is very sunny, where do you go to? You want to have a meeting, for example, that we used to have, you have this village meeting and you go under the trees. In some cases now, you don't have that situation again. And so this kind of drive in the notion that, look, we can't continue the way we are exploiting nature, and we just have to do something about it.
Okay.
And I bet you, some communities are actually, in fact, before, immediately you tell them, they go beyond what you are even telling them, and they are doing something. So I think we just have to continue with this, individually, as a family.
Just find a way to humanize the issues.
Children now are catching this.
Okay. Well, let me ask Mr. Majekodunmi. Let's take it to urban development, or yes, urban development, urban planning, physical planning, and all of those things. The most that some governments have done is to have two separate kinds of disposal bins, one for recyclables and one for non-recyclables and all. There are those who have also advocated that, you know, while growing up, they had small farms beside their houses or in front of their houses where they could just plant tomatoes, small vegetables, and all of those things. Alara is looking at me and she's remembering those days. Now,
just that they were not farms. They were little gardens.
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's imagine that. I mean, do you see those things playing a role beyond just the different disposables for recyclable and non-recyclables? Is there anything urban development can do to help to sustain, invest in the planet?
Very, very good point. There's so many things the urban development can do and must do. And we need to keep re-emphasizing this. And I love what Zolubamishe said, that, you know, we're looking on the resources of this planet as infinite. They are not. Planet Earth is actually, you know, it's a tiny little speck. It's a little diamond in the cosmos. It's the only one that can support life, but it's a pretty small place. And our population is exploding massively. And the reality is that we are totally overtaxing it. She also alluded to the fact that the Creator put everything here for a purpose. And all the elements of creation, all the bio elements of creation are living in harmony with each other, apart from the so-called flagship species, he that was made in the image and is still trying to acquire the likeness. Because believe you me, if we had the likeness of our Creator, the loving, caring, wonderful likeness of our Creator, we would not be doing what we're doing to the environment. It's just an extension of what we're doing to each other. You know, wars, massive killings, destruction, wiping out cities, wiping out children, all kinds of rubbish, nonsensical things. And then we're doing it to nature. And she is saying, no, you can't do this. And one of the ways that it's been impacting negatively, most negatively on nature, is the way we're developing our urban areas. Concretizing, and pretending that we can survive without nature. And we need to go back to that. We need to really adhere to very strict physical planning regulations and ensure that every development we do passes the litmus test of environmental impact. If it's gonna impact negatively on the environment, then it cannot be done. It's as simple as that. We've reached a critical stage. And this is where, sadly, so many people, especially the decision makers, are totally missing it. We've reached a critical stage. Mother Nature has given us a lot of chance. She's given us some warnings, some little tap on the head, and then a little bit of a shake. COVID didn't shake you up enough. Okay, that last huge storm that was unprecedented didn't shake you up enough. That flooding that came in, the desertification that's causing all kinds of breaking down of the societies in those places. Don't let her come and really hit us, because that's what she will do. She is obliged to do that. What you give her, she's obliged to give it back. What you sow, you reap. Yeah. Or can you plant cassava and harvest cocoyam?
Mrs. Oluwamishi, what is the meaning of carbon neutrality? And are we doing enough as a nation to deal with that?
Okay.
Did you hear me?
Thank you very much again. Carbon neutrality is simply for everybody to understand. It means that we should not input into the atmosphere more than what the environment can absorb and can process. Unfortunately, the story has been that we are emitting into the atmosphere, releasing into the atmosphere what is more than the capacity of what the atmosphere can take. And so that is what carbon neutrality is all about, in simple terms. And are we doing enough? No. If we're doing enough, then there will not be any reason for us to continue to advocate for environmental consciousness, environmental awareness, and taking part in environmental management. So we continue to do it because, like Mr. Majekodumi says, the elasticity, the capacity of the earth to sustain us, we are getting very close to the edge. And unfortunately, so many people still think, no, they're just talking. But even simple heat waves that we are talking about, simple rain pattern that has changed, everything is telling us that, look, it cannot be, we can't continue business as usual. It has brought about diseases that we are thinking that we don't know the source. Some people tell me that natural resource, they say that maybe natural resources are not, that they will replenish. Yes, they have a capacity to replenish. But when it gets beyond that capacity, then of course there is nothing. My lecturer told me in school that environment does not forgive. And that is what everybody should have at the back of their mind. What we call natural disaster, I tend to continue to argue it. We call it natural disaster because, of course, it comes from nature. But really, the cause of natural disaster, 90% of them are as a result of human activities. But we may not get the result immediately. We may not get the consequence maybe in 1 year, maybe even in 100 years. And then when it comes, we say it is natural, a natural disaster. And so we tend to exonerate ourselves from the cause of these things. And these are the things that we need to continue to think about. Carbon neutral, yes. In fact, the preaching now is that apart from sustainability means that, okay, it is important, we can have it tomorrow when we consume it today in a sustainable way. But now we are even saying that it is even possible for us to even do much more than the earth requires, so that we can catch up with what we have done, and then we can maybe kind of, if possible, go back to the normal way that environment used to be and the natural resources.
Well, you know, okay, so madam, I'm going to ask you, since you are the mother, let's explore how we can pass this on to children. As Alero asked you earlier, the whole conversation around Earth Day started in 1970. By my little math, that's more than 43 years ago. Now, those children born, no, that's 53 years ago. Children born in that year, some of them are already grandparents. Now, how do we communicate Earth Day, environmental consciousness, climate change, and all these conversations to little children so that they can grow up with the practice and we don't have to start afresh the way we seem to be rebooting the old ones now?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I like this question. Really, actually, when the story about environmental management started, you know, of course, we talk to the leaders, we talk to the adults, because they are in the position of authority to make changes, so to say. But maybe for one reason or the other, political will and whatever, individual preferences, we don't see what we want. And in a couple of years back now, we are now going back to the children. We go to the secondary schools, we go to the primary schools, and you need to see the way these children receive this message. Because when they can see the difference, good enough, Mr. Maja Kodumi has a project in Lagos State on urban farming. And we picked one of the schools, primary schools in Lekki there, to do the project. I was really thrilled. A girl came to the Lagos Business School and was telling us about environment. A primary school pupil came to school, they have their farms, all their environments where they was dilapidated, they were not doing anything with it. They even had to get money to raise fence so that the farms, nobody will tamper with it. And they get the information so fast that they go back to their houses and they tell their children. So they know it because when you show them that, look, if you do this, this is what you get, and we practice it and we show it to them, they tend to grab it more. And they know that, look, and I used to tell them, look, if you take any action now, in the future, you will see the result. So why don't you take an action that will give you a positive result later in life when you also become a leader? Because this is what we are saying now. In Abuja, for example, we have a project raising climate champions in all the state schools in Abuja. And many of them have found even their career from that project, from that program alone. Some of them have won international award from it. And so it's encouraging them. All these plastics now in some of these schools, you hardly find plastic in those schools again. They're looking for ways of turning it to whatever thing that they can use it for. It's bringing out their creativity. And then they are using it also to, in a way, also managing the environment, trying to clean the environment, planting trees. We have schools where they plant trees now in Ilorin. We have over 20 schools that we helped, we supported, and they planted trees. They now have vegetables. I remember even during COVID, many of them came out and said, we have vegetables for sale. because they were growing vegetables, they were growing fruits in their gardens, and it's helping a lot. Students whom the classrooms have been blown off by roofs, when they see the effect of planting orchards, planting trees that holds the soil and then reduces the effect of wind on the roof of their classes, you don't need to do too much preaching again for them to embrace the mindset of environmental management. So we are making efforts, and we want others to join us to do that.
Okay. Now, Desmond, we're running out of time pretty fast. So the work that you have been doing all these years is now yielding some fruit, albeit not as large a fruit as you would like, but it is beginning to yield something. So, should we therefore celebrate Earth Day this year? And what would be the apt way you would recommend for us to celebrate today?
Earth Day this year, and in reality, every day we should celebrate. When we just look at the marvelous miracles of creation, just our atmosphere alone, the way the gases are blended there to make this a life-supporting system, not to mention the way the biodiversity works together, everything should definitely be celebrated. However, we need to admonish ourselves, and I'm very optimistic because we're Nigerians, and Nigerians are very much God-believing, and in a lot of us, God-fearing people. And we need to refer back to our scripture. And really, we should stop being hypocritical, because the scriptures are very, very clear that we should love our Creator and that we should love our neighbors. Our closest neighbor, obviously, are the most vulnerable, especially our children. And by the actions that we're perpetrating against this nature, instead of celebrating our wonderful, beautiful diversity and capacity to support life, our actions are deteriorating. In fact, we're working against nature, against scripture, which tells us that our method of dominion is in opposition to replenishment. And how can we not replenish the life support system that our children and our grandchildren will rely on? If we celebrate nature, then maybe we'll find it a little bit easier, because if you're celebrating and looking up to something, having awe. After all, our leaders, we have so much awe for them when they go in their siren and Your Excellency, all this thing, because they got a little bit of power. Nature has all the power that God gave us. So if we can have far more awe and celebration of nature, maybe we'll find it easier to care for her more effectively. Because as Mrs. Olubamiche said, we're running out of time, and we need to have a renewal of our minds. We need to have a change of attitude and be far more caring. We need to actually express love for our neighbor and not just say, okay, we're worshiping the God, we're praising the God that tells us to love our neighbor. So love nature, love your neighbor, and nature can love you back.
Love nature and hug nature today, kiss nature today, and celebrate nature. Because without nature, we wouldn't be alive. That's where we get our food from, we get our water. All our nourishment is coming from the earth. Happy Earth Day, everybody. Thank you very much, Desmond Majekodunmi, founder, Lufasi Park, and Ibironke Olubamiche, National Coordinator, Global Environment Facility Small Grants Program, implemented by United Nations Development Program. Thank you very much. Happy Earth Day to you.
Happy Earth Day.
Right. So, in just a moment, we shall come back and we shall be talking about lifestyle. How does your interior, how does your home affect your lifestyle?
Personify you. How much of it is earthy? We'll talk about that when we return.